Hi friends, welcome back. So in this session, we will see about C scope rules. Okay. So in the previous session, we have seen that how we will be declaring variables, okay, and how to use variables. All those concepts are clear, I guess. Okay, so now quickly I want to discuss one topic, that is a scope rule. Especially we'll discuss about what you mean by a local variable and what is a global variable. Okay. So why we need to define or declare some variables as global. Okay, so what's the difference? Okay, what will be the difference? So let's do the analysis quickly, then we will try to write some programs. Okay. First of all, let's see what you mean by a local variable and what you mean by a global variable. Okay. So in C programming language, variables can be like it is defined within some function are known as local variable. Okay. So even main function. Okay. So as of now, the previous programs, whatever programs you have you have written, only there was one function which was main function, right? So maybe in the further example, we will try to add more functions, separate functions and all. Okay. So whenever you are declaring any variable like within the function, it can be main function or any other function. Okay. So then that variable is known as local variable. And the variable which are defined outside of the function block, which and are accessible to the entire program as known as global variable. So because that means outside the function, that means even outside the main function. So then it is known as global variable. Alright, so one important thing we have to keep it in mind. So whenever you are declaring a local variable, okay, so the default value will be unpredictable. So that means you declared a variable, for example, int a, you haven't initialized it, okay. So simply you have done only the declaration. So the value, okay, so the value of the variable will be some garbage value. So it's better to initialize if you don't have value. So keep this practice, at least try to initialize that with 0. Later on you can keep the value whatever you require. Okay, so that one thing we have to keep in mind. And global variable, whenever we are declaring the global variable in the global space, by default the value will be 0. So then after that, if you want, you can change it. Okay. Yeah, so I hope it's clear what you mean by local variable. So the scope will be local, okay, to the function. Global variable which we are declaring outside any function, even outside the main function. That's it. So now you can see here, you can see what's the scope, like means where we will be declaring the global variable and local variable. So here you can see we have the header file. Okay, so it's a C++ program example, but you are able to understand what's a global space and local space. So something which I am defining, which is outside the main. Okay, so above the main, I written something called int global equal to 5. Okay, so this global is a variable, like the data type is integer. Okay, so and the initial value is 5, everything is fine, but it is a global variable because it's outside all the function. And in the main program, you can see in main program, we declared one variable like int global equal to 2. Okay, so that become local. Why it is so? Because it is inside the main function. So, okay, so any variable which is coming inside the function is known as local variable. Okay, and we will be printing the value of the local variable. So that I'll show you the example. I will show you. Maybe in the cube ID we can do it. Okay, so one thing we can keep it in mind, that means for the local and global variable, even we can use the same name. Okay, so I'll show that. Okay, so we'll try to do some programs so it will be more clear then. Yeah, now we just want to see the difference between local variable and global variable. Okay, so variable which is declared inside the function, which is known as local variable, and the variable declared outside the function, of course it is global. And scope is throughout the block. Okay, so local variable always will be having the scope throughout the block. That means within the function only it will be having the scope. Okay, so for global variable we don't have any limitation. So anywhere inside the main function or inside other function, we will be able to access the global variable. And for local variable, the lifetime is throughout the function. Okay, so the existence only will be there within the function. Okay, if the function exists, okay, so till the end of the function, it will be having the life. Okay, after that, that variable don't have any validity. It is destroyed. Okay, and for the global variable, we don't have any restriction. Lifetime is throughout the program. All right. So for local variable, memory allocated in the stack frame of the function in which it is declared, and it is valid till the function finishes execution. So maybe in the coming sessions, we'll discuss about what you mean by stack, okay, and why we will keep some data variables in stack. So we'll come to that. So by the time it will be clear. All right. So now you can see local variable can only be accessed from inside the block, okay, in which we declare it. Like within the function, if I declared, if it is inside the main function, if I declared the local variable, like anywhere from the main function, I will be able to access it. That's it. So here global variable, you can access anywhere. And for local variables, scope starts from the point where it is declared. Okay, so if you try to access it before declaring, then the compiler, it will be giving the error. Are you getting? So maybe I started the main program. If you are declaring within the main program, if you are declaring the local variable in the first line, then we don't have any issue. We can use it anywhere in the main function. Okay, so maybe you have done like few lines. Okay, so you are actually trying to access the local variable which you define maybe the below some lines. Okay, so that will be the problem. I'll show that practically so it will be clear. All right, so now you can see the local variable, the scope will be, so we declared a variable int a. Okay, so that is within the main function, so of course it become local. And here you will be able to see there is one variable. Okay, so before the main function we declared, so that become global. And using printf statement, of course we'll be able to print the values of local and global variable. Alright, so I think the comparison is clear. Maybe if it is not clear, we are going to do it practically, so it will be clear. Okay, so I just did what is a global variable and what is a local variable. I just explained that. Okay, so that is clear. And one more thing we have to keep it in mind for global variable. Okay, even though if we are not declaring, okay, so you are only writing int g or something, whatever it is. If you are not initializing it, still the value will be 0. The default value will be 0. For local variable, we don't have that option. So if you are not initializing it properly, some garbage values can be there. Okay, so that will lead to some erroneous result. So it's better practice if you are declaring a local variable. If you don't know what's the value initially, at least try to equate or write it to 0. Okay, so initialize that to 0. Right, so that's all. Right. Now let's move on to the cube ID and let's try to do the first program. Yeah, now please look at here. Okay, so in this program, you can see I just started a new project. Okay, so just try to open a new project. For every session, whatever program we are doing, try to do it in maybe as a new project. Okay, so don't edit the previous one. Alright, so you can see here after the header file hash include stdio.h. Okay, so I am starting the main program as usual. Okay, int main, and you can see here this variable which I am declaring here. Okay, int var1 var2. Okay, so then I declared one more variable called int count. Okay, so this become local variable. Right, so I written the comment here. Okay, so because I am declaring this inside the main function. Okay, so I already told you it's better to write the value. It's better to initialize it with some actual value. So you can see the initialization I have done at the bottom. Variable 1 is 10 and variable 2 is 20. Okay, so count I am not initializing with the count variable. What I am doing, I am just adding variable 1 and 2. So that result will be the content of the count variable. That's it. Okay, so 3 variable declaration we have done on the top, but it is inside the main function. So then that's the reason it become local. And we initialize that with some values. Okay, so the count variable will be the sum of the previous two variable 1 and variable 2. Okay, that's it. Then I'm just printing value of variable 1, variable 2 and count. That's it. So I think all clear. We'll be getting variable 1 will be 10, variable 2 should be 20. And of course, count variable should be 10 plus 20. So that should be 30. So let's see whether we are able to get all the results. Okay. Yeah, so yeah, now you can see value of variable 1 is 10, variable 2 is 20 and count equal to 30. That's it. Okay, so now let me do one thing. Okay, without initialization, okay, it's a local variable, var1, var2, count is they all are local variable. And without the actual initialization, let me try to print it and see. If you want to remove certain lines, okay, from the program, you can use comments. Okay, so for commenting, if it is single line, if you want to comment, you can use this double slash. Okay, so, or if you want to comment multiple lines, then you can use slash, then star. Okay, so slash star and till where you want to comment it out. So till here I am just going to comment it out. Okay, so I will be writing again star and the slash. Okay, so the line number 17 I previously commented. Okay, 18 to 20. So those lines I commented out, which means to say they are not a part of the program, but still I don't want to delete it. Okay, so we can do this thing. And right now let me try to print the value. Okay, so I'm just trying to print the value of this variables. Let me build project once again. I'm getting some warnings, right? The warnings are like that because I already declared the variable, right? So then they are showing that we haven't initialized it. Okay, uninitialized. Okay, so the ID itself is giving the warnings. Okay, yeah, so you are able to see that it's just showing 0. Okay, so variable 2 is 16, some garbage value, and count is 0 again. All right, so that's it. So understood that like local variable, if you are declaring the local variable, it is your responsibility to initialize that to 0 if you don't have any value. If you have some value, of course you can use it. Okay, so here you can see like in earlier we were doing like that. We already initialized that with some actual values. Okay, so then we used it, right? So that you learned. And I hope all are clear how we'll be able to remove certain lines, like commenting out and all. Okay, so well, like when you're doing the debugging process manually, okay, so like error checking and all, if you're doing manually, you can use this technique. Okay, so you'll be able to identify that on which line you have some errors or where like which part of the program, like okay, you have errors. All right, so that's clear, I guess. Now, let me show you how we will be declaring a global variable. Of course, global variable should be in the above the main function. Okay, so here I can declare a global variable. So anything. Okay, so for example, I would like to find the area of a circle. Okay, so area of the circle, the equation is pi r square, right? So pi value is 3.14. We know that. Okay, so that I am declaring in the global space. Okay, so 3.14. So the decimal. Okay, so that's a decimal number. So what I would like to do, I would like to use data type as float. Okay, so float pi. Pi is a variable which I'm like creating, and I would like to initialize that with the value 3.14. That's it. Okay, so right now you understood that pi is a value. Okay, so pi is a variable. Okay, the value is 3.1, 3.14, whatever it is. But I declared this in the global space, not inside the main function, which means to say anywhere I can use this variable. So that become global variable. That's the meaning. Okay. And you know by default the value of like global variable will be 0. Okay. It won't contain any garbage values and all. All right. So now maybe in the main program I am just trying to access this global variable and I would like to do a simple calculation just to find the area of the circle. So here you can see the global variable pi. It's here. And maybe inside the main function I am just declaring one more like variable called area. Okay, so area is actually pi r square. Okay, so I declared one radius variable here. All are local variable. Okay, in radius equal to pi. Float area like I have declared only. Okay, I haven't used it. Okay, so here you can see this is actually the part of the previous program. If you don't want, just omit it. Okay, so now you can see the area, float area, which I declared already. Okay, so I'm just calculating the area like that. Area equal to pi into r square. Okay, so the variable radius into radius. Radius which I already written here. Radius I declared it as 5. Okay, I initialized like the variable radius, integer variable radius to 5. So basically what it is happening, like it will be accessing the pi variable. Okay, so what is this pi variable, which is a global variable. Okay, which is already having global declaration. Pi into 5 into 5. Okay, so 3.14 into 5 into 5. So that will be the area, and I am simply printing here area of the circle. So area is actually a float. Okay, so float type variable. So that's the reason I'm using the format specifier as percentage f. Okay, so that's it. Okay, if you want to like get the accuracy, for example, I need after okay, so decimal point, I need only 2 places or 3 places, whatever it is. So you can write accordingly. So I'm just getting 0.2f. Okay, area. So let me build this project. Okay, so I'm just building this project. Okay, I don't have any errors right now, so let me run it. Run as C++ application. So we are actually getting the previous one. Okay, so that you can ignore so far. So area of the circle, we are getting it as around 78.50. Okay, so radius is what, 5 square, right? So 5 into 5, that itself is 25, and into 3.14 something. Okay, so 25 into 3, almost the value is correct. Okay, so 78.50 is very simple. Okay. So then why you'll be wondering that why I would like to declare it as a global variable. Even I could have like used it as a local variable, right? So the reason is that here I don't have any other function. Okay. Sometime maybe apart from the main function or maybe within the main function, we will be having multiple sub functions. Okay. So finding the area, I could have defined a separate function. Okay. Or finding the total, that means sum, I could have like make a separate function. So like in that sense, so if I'm making separate function, inside a function, if I'm creating a variable, that become local. Okay. So which I can't access outside that particular function. Okay. The existence or lifetime will be within the block itself. Okay. So maybe I'll show that once we are like doing more examples with functions. Okay. Yeah, so here I just want to clarify about the local and global variable. I think it's clear. Look, like global variable, if even if I'm not initializing with any value. Okay, so by default it will be holding, default value will be 0, right? So that's a conclusion. All right, all clear? So we have seen initially, we have seen the local variable declarations, where we will do, how we will do. Okay, so then we did like the global variable declaration. That's it. Now, one more case I would like to discuss here. So the case which we already done, or which we have seen in the presentation, the case is that, suppose if I am having a variable, okay, that variable having the name, okay, so for example, here I have a float pi is 3.14, which is a global variable so far. Okay, so now what I am going to do, maybe inside the main function, here if I am declaring any variable, it become local variable. I'm going to declare a variable called float, okay, or maybe int, okay, whatever it is, int or float, whatever you like. But the variable name is pi only, okay. So I'm just making int pi equal to 5. That's it, okay. Or yeah, I think it's clear, right? Into pi, like int pi equal to 5, some value, some integer value, I am just assigning. As you know, of course, pi value can't be like a 10 or 5, but simply I just use the same name of the global variable, and which I like maybe I'm just reusing that inside the main function. Okay, so which I declared again, but right now the value of pi is 10. So maybe the same program I am running. So you like maybe for the program, for the area, okay, whenever you are calculating the area. So I'm using the pi variable, pi into radius into radius. Radius as usual, it's coming 5. Okay, so here maybe in the line number 28, when we are calculating the area, okay, so which value compiler will be choosing? Any guess? If you are able to think it, okay, so just write it and give whether your answer is correct or not, whether the guess is correct or not. Okay, so now for the compiler there are two choices. One, it can access the global variable pi, which is 3.14, which is the accurate result. Other thing, which it can access the local variable pi, which is actually like an integer variable. Okay, that value is 10. Now let's run it and see which variable it will be choosing. Okay, so whether it will give like preference for the local variable or global variable. So I'm just running it as yeah. So now you will be able to see that, okay, so the like the reality you understood right now. Area of the circle, okay, so radius into radius, pi square 25, but pi it was choosing the local variable. Okay, so this is actually the thing which you want to understand. So if there is a variable, okay, which is global also, local also, that same name, okay, same variable, of course, name is same in same variable. Okay, so whenever I am actually calculating something, whenever I am trying to use this like a variable within the function, okay, so within the function, it is giving priority for the local variable, not the global. Okay, so whenever I am calculating the area, okay, so area, first a compiler will be choosing, okay, so radius, okay, radius it got within the main function, and even for pi, it will be looking within the function, within the block, it will be choosing, okay, it will be like searching. Okay, so here you can see that within the block itself, pi is already defined and the value is 10. So the compiler will be taking this value only. Compiler always will be giving more preference for the variable which is defined or declared inside that particular function. Not necessary that always it will be main function. So first it's the searching, okay, so will happen within the function, within the block. So it got the pi value, but the pi value is 10. So just like taking that value. Okay. So it's not going to the global scope. But sometime if you are not able to find it here, the pi, okay, so the pi variable is not declared, okay, within the main function. So then the compiler will be having a tendency to check it in the global space, okay. So like any global variable has been declared with that name. So then compiler will be choosing that. Okay, so even if you haven't declared in the global space, then what will happen? The compiler of course will give error. Okay, so this variable is not initialized. Okay, sometime it will be taking the garbage value or any maybe like it default it can take 0. Of course it will be giving some error, okay, if you haven't declared. So what I can do here, one more example I am just doing. So I think it's clear for all. Okay, it's very important concept, you have to be very clear about it. So now I'm just removing this declaration in pi equal to 10. I just commented it out. And so here in the global space, what I have done, I will declare a variable int pi, but I'm not initializing it. Okay, so like I already declared it. Then in the main function, I'm just trying to find the area. Okay, so pi into radius into radius. Let's see what's the output. As per our understanding, global variable means default value 0. Okay, so whenever I'm finding the area, let's see whether I'm getting 0 into something is 0, of course. Okay. Now let's see how it is coming. Yeah, so you can see that the default value was 0. So that's the reason area equal to 0 into radius, whatever it is. Okay, so I'm getting the area of the circle 0. All right. So what all I have done. So let's conclude the session. Okay, so what all the things we discussed. So far we were discussing about the scope of the variable. Okay, scope of the variable, initially we discussed about global variable, then local variable. What do you mean by global variable? A variable which is defining or declaring, initializing outside the function. Okay, so outside the function, which is known as what? Which is known as global variable. Okay, so by default, if you are declaring only the global variable, by default it will be initialized with the 0, value 0. Okay, so that is global. And then we discussed about the local variable. Local variable means within the function. It can be main function or any other function. Okay, so far in this example I am having only main function, in the main function. So within that I am declaring certain variable which is known as local variables. Okay, so local variable, whenever you are declaring, if you have initial values, of course use that values. Okay, if you don't have any initial values, try to initialize that with 0. Otherwise it will be containing some garbage values. Okay, so that will give some erroneous result or maybe something different from our expectation. Okay, so that is one thing. And then we were declaring the third case which we declared, means which we done here is maybe a same variable. Okay, same variable I am declaring in the global space also, local space also. Then if I am trying to access that variable, if I am trying to redefine or if I am trying to do some calculation with that variable within the function, okay, so it is always giving higher priority for the local variable. Okay, if you are not able to find it in the local space, then only it is going to search in the global space. So that's the like the third thing. So I hope all clear about global and local variable. Maybe like in the coming sessions we'll try to use more about this local scope and global scope. Okay, so we'll be doing more examples even when we are discussing about the functions. Okay, yeah, so I think all clear about that. Thank you. If you haven't clear, just like maybe try to do multiple examples. Okay, try to initialize with the value and do some calculation. Just use some mathematical formula and do the calculation and see. Yeah, I hope it's all clear for everybody, right? Yeah, so thank you all. Let's meet in the coming session.